Welcome to another edition of our Engineers of Endava podcast series. As you know from the previous episodes, during these talks, we are recognizing and celebrating the technical careers paths of our most senior engineers. Our special guest for this episode is Daniel Tărăboanță, Principal Development Consultant in Iași. We will discover a bit of his journey in Endava and receive several tips and tricks on how to build a successful technical career path. Hi Daniel, thank you for accepting our invitation to this talk.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's actually my first podcast ever, so I'm really excited about this.
First, let's get people to know you better. What was your career path in Endava?
I'd like to say about myself, joking obviously, that I'm one of the dinosaurs in Endava because I joined back in the winter of 2010, and during my last 12 years, I've been working on so many projects and so many opportunities, and all of them kind of shaped the person that I feel, or the professional that I like to see myself as being today. And I'm really, really grateful for that. In terms of roles, I had the chance to play various roles on the project that I've been involved in, and starting from senior developer to development lead, development consultant, design lead or architect, and even Scrum Master or acting project manager on some of them. Also, in terms of teams, I've had a chance, and projects, I've had the chance to work with small teams on small projects and with very large teams in very large and complex projects.
We talked about your career in Endava and that you are one of the people who managed to follow the technical path. I'm sure that our audience would like to know more about what are the tools or the technologies you are mastering.
The simple answer is that my core technical skill is back-end development with Java. Well, obviously the answer tends to be a bit more complex than that, because over the years I realized that languages, IDEs, frameworks, technologies are less important, and what really matters are the concepts, the principle, the practices and techniques behind them. So as a simple example, for example, when I joined this software development career, not necessarily in Endava, but when I started back in 2005, so like 16 years ago, the technologies of choice at that time were Java Server Faces, Java Enterprise, J2EE at that point, and Eclipse IDE. And it seems so strange because over the years, technologies have evolved so much and the landscape has changed so much. And now you only hear about them in conversations starting with, when I was young, I was using JSF or something. Nobody tends to be using them anymore. So, and the other side to this, and my point that I'm trying to take here is things like design principles, solid, for example, or architectural patterns, enterprise integration patterns, stuff like that, clean code, obviously, refactoring principles are very, very much relevant today as they were 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And books about these concepts like clean code from Uncle Bob and refactoring books from Martin Fowler tend to be very, very valuable today as well. But probably nobody reads a book about JSF at the moment.
And what are your strong suits?
Tough one. I'd say it's a good combination of technical and soft skills. It's a good balance. I'm trying to keep a balance between these two.
What would you recommend to somebody who wants to pursue a technical career path like yours?
I think the easiest approach, or one approach, I wouldn't necessarily say the easiest, but it's important to have some inspiration. So it's important to find some role models, either in Endava or the wider IT or software development community, and draw your inspiration from these people. So for example, Owen Woods, our CTO, or Martin Fowler, James Lewis, Sam Newman, Eric Evans, Kent Beck, the author of unit testing tools, Joshua Bloch on the Java side, or James Gosling, the father of Java, Sandro Mancuso about craftsmanship, or Uncle Bob that I mentioned already about his books about clean code. All of them are people that have inspired me over the years, and they keep inspiring me today. And also very, very important, don't forget that it's quite important to share this knowledge with other people. Remember that sharing is caring, and we have that in our pass it on culture as well.
Now we would like to find out something else, and that is, what was the coolest project you were involved in your career and what made it so special?
it's difficult, and I can't say that I really have a project that I would name as being the coolest, because all the projects that I've been involved in are cool. And I'm not just saying that to not upset anybody. I really loved all the projects that I've been involved in Endava. You can see that in some projects, it's either sometimes the technology that is cool, in other projects it's a team that is very cool, or sometimes the client or the challenges that you have. So I've always managed to find something interesting in each of the projects that I've been involved with. But I have to say, over the years, I think the most fond memories I have are from the teams that I've been involved with. We really have some very, very cool people in Endava, and we have like a very good vibe in the company. I love that.
So, Daniel, until now we've been talking about how you progressed and developed your career skills, but I'm sure that our audience would like also to find out about the moments that didn't work as expected during these 16 years of careers. Could you tell us an example of what you learned out of it?
I can't really remember a personal one. Maybe my brain is just trying to forget the worst moments. But I do remember one from a project that I've been involved with. It's from a client that essentially the client wanted to integrate with another third party, and they had a team from the client that started working on this integration, and they started building some REST APIs, and they worked on those REST APIs for probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 sprints. And at some point they realized, well, somebody did a big mistake in the communication, because they didn't think that it wasn't some REST APIs that they needed to build. It was some integration with some SOAP endpoints on the other hand. So it was not the third party that was calling them. They should be calling the third party with some SOAP endpoints, which reminds me an old joke, a Romanian engineering joke, saying that 2 teams of Romanian engineers start to build a tunnel. So one team starts from one side, the other team starts from the other side. If they meet in the middle, it's perfect. If not, they will have 2 tunnels. So that's a similar situation that happened in that project, I would say.
Now that we are closing to an end of this edition, how would you define technical excellence in your own words?
It's a really nice analogy that I've taken from some of the books about software craftsmanship that I've been reading, and I think that this analogy emerged probably a decade ago. So if you think of software development as a craft, technical excellence is essentially the equivalent of mastery, of craftsmanship. So the reason why I like this analogy is because it kind of paints some mental images in our brains and makes this abstract concept of software development and technical excellence. They make it more tangible. Especially if you think of craftsmanship and mastery from even the old ages, the medieval times or stuff like that. So it's really a nice analogy in my view.
With this in mind, thank you once again, Daniel, for participating in this podcast series and for sharing with us your stories and experiences. Is there something else you would like to share with our audience before closing this session?
It's important to find your passion in this area, because if you'll be passionate about what you're doing, you're going to get very, very close to technical excellence quite fast. So that's why it's quite critical to really love what you're doing. And obviously, what I said, remember, technology is just on the short term, but on the long run, you need to think about concepts and principles. That's what's going to stay.
Thanks a lot, Daniel.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.